All right. I do believe that we are on the air. Hi, everybody. This is Carol Mikowski, and welcome to the Tuesday night Empowered Dreams Hangout. We're happy to have you here with us. We're here with our panel below, and tonight's topic of discussion is motivation. And as I found out, that is a topic that can really go off in all sorts of directions when you start to think about it. And, well, I'll get into that in a moment. First of all, let's introduce the panel. As I said, I'm Carol Mikowski from upstate New York, and I see the first person would be Catherine. Do you want to come out and introduce yourself, Catherine?
Sure. Hi, I'm Catherine from Alameda, California, and I love to be on this panel, and every week have a new topic that we're discussing, and I can't wait to hear and discuss this topic for what motivates us. Thanks, Carol.
Sure. Next, I have our neighbor to the north, Danny.
There we go. Sorry about that. I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, I'm up here in Canada. I'm in the Great Lakes area of Ontario, and I'm also excited to talk about motivation tonight because it's different for everybody, so should be interesting.
Okay. And in motion, we have our trucker here, Denise. Do you want to come out and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Denise, and I actually live in Florida, but my husband and I drive a truck for a living, so excuse the bouncy. I'm actually in the back of the cab, and my husband is driving so I could be on this hangout, and I'm really excited about this topic, and we'll talk later.
Okay. And then I have someone whom I know very well, Ellie.
I wasn't sure if it was me because I see it different than you. Hi, Ellie Walsh here, upstate New York, on the other end of the house from Carol. And this is an interesting topic. And we have a great panel tonight, a great topic. So let's do it. I'm looking forward to it.
And last and certainly not least, we have Michelle from the southern part of the Midwest. Is that right, Michelle?
That's right, Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yep. I am so excited for this topic because this motivation catches me in my heart. It's a topic I'm very motivated about. So I can't wait to start discussing it.
Great. Good. Good. All right. That said, let's get started. Now, I'm going to bring up the topic from a sort of a theoretical base, and I will bring in a little bit of personal stuff, and I'm hoping that the panel then will pick up and throw in whatever individual or personal stuff that they want to throw in related to the topic. Secondly, I have some things that I'm going to say that sound as though they're going to be disjointed, and you're going to say, what the heck is she talking about that for? But my hope is that I'll be able to wrap it all up and bring it all together. And finally, this certainly can be interactive. So if anybody who's on the comments, who's one of our guests, please feel free to put any questions or comments that you have in there. People will be monitoring that and responding accordingly. So that said, let's take a look at the topic of motivation. Now, people have kind of in general some areas of desire that they want out of life. And I'm going to name a couple of them that I'm certainly aware of and that people talk about frequently. And let's see if I catch most of them. One is money and wealth. Another is health and wellness. Another is love, relationships, goes into family, friends. And then we talk about our jobs, our career, our business. I see my dog walking around in the background there. And we talk about fun, recreation, vacation. So as far as I'm concerned, those are the 5 major areas, and certainly there are other things that people are looking for out of life. Excuse me. And now I'm going to go off a little bit and talk about a kaleidoscope. And you're going to say, what the heck does a kaleidoscope have to do with this? Well, I have synchronistically, if you will, run into this topic of motivation frequently in the last week or so, which is what made me choose this topic. And I somehow jumped into the idea that life is like a kaleidoscope. You might say, well, why that? Why are you saying that? Well, my cousin, when I was a kid, maybe around 10 years old, something like that, he gave me a kaleidoscope for Christmas. And I loved it. I loved it because I was mesmerized by the different images and pictures, and I loved it because I was very close to him. We used to hang out all the time together, and I treasured it because he gave it to me. So when you take a kaleidoscope and you hold it up and you twist the end, the little pieces get all jumbled in between, and then you stop twisting it, and there's this gorgeous, gorgeous image that shows up with lots of colors, and you do it again, gets all jumbled, and then it comes out again. And to me, that's kind of the way I thought of life. Life certainly has its ups and downs. We try to smooth them out as much as we can, yet it kind of goes like this, and we constantly course correct. So we twist and stop and twist and stop. So I thought that kind of related to the part of the picture, if anybody saw that image, on what might have brought you to the hangout tonight. And that was, do you know which end is up? So to me, that kind of all went together. Now, last week we spoke about being stuck. And I'm wondering, you know, is stuck really a matter of lack of motivation or lack of full head-on motivation? Or is it maybe lack of information, lack of having a goal, and just procrastination, which in my mind is lack of alignment? So we'll just kind of hold those things in the background and see how they all fit together, and I hope they do in your minds by the time we're finished here. Now, a dictionary definition of motivation is a reason for acting in a particular way. So it kind of gets back to our why. It's a reason for acting in a particular way. And through life, I've run into different people explaining motivation. When I was in school, I had a teacher. We were discussing it in class one day, and he said motivation is the right combination of pain and hope. And I just carried that along. I was a therapist for many years, and I use that in my work, trying to find that sweet spot between pain and hope for people so that they could get some motivation to move along and change for the better. And then I'm thinking today, like, you think about, for example, kids in the ghetto, if you will. I mean, I don't want to generalize, but at any rate, I would think that, well, people talk about they're not being motivated, and when you think about it, what kind of hope do they have? I mean, if you drive through the ghetto, the low-income area of a city, and look around, I mean, there's not a lot there to make it, to strive for, to uplift you. And Tony Robbins was talking about this teacher who took some second graders, about 7-8-year-olds, and everybody, this was in an inner city school, and everybody told her, you know, just don't get too excited about these kids. They've given up already. They're not gonna do much. And she said, you know, fully on that. Let's see what these kids can do. So believe it or not, she had them reading Shakespeare, Tolstoy, and they would discuss what they read, and you know, the theories and the themes and the threads in the stories and the poems and the plays, and it was amazing. Tony Robbins himself interviewed one of her students at one point, and I mean, the kid, he wrote out the conversation. The kid spoke like a PhD scholar or something. It was incredible, incredible. So, I mean, you hear these stories of these teachers who are able to motivate the kids, and it's fantastic, the results that come out of it. So when somebody says, forget about somebody, forget about a group of people, I would forget about that idea. So I'm going to go into a couple other people and the way they look at motivation. Brendan Burchard says that motivation is escape from fear and moving toward freedom. People want freedom, and that's their motivating force, or they're very fearful of something and will try to move away from it. Tony Robbins says something very similar, but a tad different. He says people will move away from fear and go towards pleasure. Of course, freedom is pleasure, so they're very much akin. And Ellie had posted a video by Bob Proctor lately, and in the video he said dissatisfaction is a creative state. Now, to me, that meant if you're in a state of angst where it might be somewhat painful, it might not be horribly painful, but you're in a place where you don't want to be, that's the time when your creative juices can come out and are most likely to come out because you're motivated to get away from that dissatisfaction. And then our mentor, Diane Hockman, I was listening to an audio that she had the other day, and she said, the greater the pain, the greater the power. So intensity comes into play there. And now I'm going to just go off a little bit and talk about something that I've come across lately, and it all relates, but let me just take a little sidebar here for a moment. Dr. Joe Dispenza wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I've actually read it twice so far, and I'm going to go back a third time because immediately when I picked that book up, it just resonated with me. But then as I got into chapter 2, it got into more biological and brain stuff, and it wasn't all connecting for me. So as I say, I want to go back and learn more about that. But one thing he did say is that when we were younger, I mean, I guess you could go back to infancy, but however young you want to go, we have events that we were involved in, we have experiences that we had, and as a result, there were emotions that came up as a result of the experience we were having at the time. And these emotions we integrated, we took into ourselves and threw them back into our memory and into our subconscious. And you've heard people say that we operate on an unconscious level probably 90 to 95% of the time. So anytime we come again into an experience that reminds us or to us is similar to what we experienced before, we just fall into our unconscious mode and we're going to react, we're going to behave in the same way. So that's where that intervention needs to be, something to change that. Okay, now let me go back to Tony again, Tony Robbins. And he laid out a 6-point formula for motivation, what we can do to motivate ourselves. And what really is motivation? Well, here's what he says. And he calls this neuroassociation. And I associated that with what Dr. Dispenza said, so that's what my connection was between those two. But he says in these 6 points that number 1, you have to have a goal or something that you're striving for. Call it what you will, a goal, a vision, a desire. And that has to be as specific as you can possibly make it. And secondly, you can leverage your activity towards that goal by creating pain or pleasure yourself. Now, some people, for example, they say, "Oh, I'd like to stop smoking," and they say, "Hey, I'm thinking I'm probably going to stop smoking one of these days. But you know damn well they're not going to, because you know the motivation is not really there. And I'm going to relate this to myself. I'm on a weight reduction program and have been for several months, and I've dropped about 20-25 pounds. And then I kind of hit a plateau. And I've been wondering, you know, why? Why am I being so lackadaisical about this? And I realized that I've reached a comfort level. You know, I'm not thin by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a lot more mobile than I was. I feel better. My bones don't ache as much, and that sort of thing. So, you know, I'm doing okay. I'm feeling pretty good. So the pain is lacking. So what I've decided is I have to put into my head something more on the pleasure principle. And I'm thinking about, you know, buying different clothes and becoming even more mobile and getting rid of the last of the aches and pains. So I'm putting that into place to motivate myself to get going again and get out of this this plateau that I'm in. So he talks about having your goal, creating your leverage, and a pattern interrupt. Now, he says if you're doing something, and I'll take myself again for an example. You know, maybe I'll pick up an extra piece of chocolate at night that I ought not to be doing if I truly want to drop some more pounds. So he says if you find yourself doing something that's counter motivating, that's not getting you to where you want to go, create a pattern interrupt for yourself. So he said, for example, you might want to just start out of the blue, just start singing the first 3 bars of the Star Spangled Banner or something, to do something different and get your brain off where it is, and then you can get yourself back on track again. And then he says to create the 4th point, create a new empowering alternative, some other kind of behavior. So instead of picking up that chocolate, you know, maybe I'll reach for the apple instead. I like apples. I like fruit, so it's not that horrible. So that's number 4. And number 5, he says we need to reinforce whatever we're doing. And I think that's where that, you know, you see that quote that comes up that it says something to the effect that, you know, look over your shoulder and see the progress that you've made, see how far you've come. And that reinforces and continues the motivation. And then finally, he says test it. Test all these 5 points and see if they're going to work. And if not, then go back and review each one and see what's missing and work some more on that. And I'm going to talk just a little bit more about Brendon Burchard, and then I'm going to throw this open to the panel. Brendon says that we need to start off also, he says the same thing, with a goal, a desire. I mean, who doesn't say that in the personal development field? We go back to Napoleon Hill. I love that guy. You know, that's one of his things. Set out a goal as specific as you can, and you know, put it out there, write it down, so you have it. And then instead of making a decision, Brendon uses the word choice. To my way of thinking, they're almost the same thing. Decision, choice. He says choose what will lead you to that goal. And then he says, of course, you have to take an action. It's not going to happen by just sitting on your butt. You have to do something, change your behavior, and you know, that's where we have to go back to Joe Dispenza, and instead of falling into the unconscious and just reacting, you know, without even thinking, we have to become aware. So we have to be aware of our behavior and think of what we're doing, and you know, then we can make these changes, this pattern interrupt, this new alternative that Tony Robbins was talking about. And we need to embed this behavior within us, internalize it, and that comes by developing belief. So we've got the goal, we've got the choice, we've got the action, and now we embed it with belief, and finally, commitment. Make a commitment to what we're doing. And just a couple other points I wanted to hit here. That motivation doesn't happen spontaneously. It's a result of our desire for something greater and a development of a belief, which is also trust and that hope and that pleasure. All different words, all kind of meaning the same thing, something positive. And we need to internalize the experience of the process, because it is a process. And that allows us to reinforce it, to make our commitment to it, and to sustain it. And also, we want to be mindful of the company that we keep. And how often do we hear that said by the personal development people, huh? That, you know, if you've got somebody that's pulling you down, you might want to think twice about hanging out with them, because you want people that are going to support you, that are going to be of the same mindset, that are going to help you. Just by being of the same mindset, it's going to help you reinforce what it is that you're moving toward. And that's where our masterminds and communities and hangouts such as this come in, when we all get a chance to talk about things together and we all seem to be going in a positive direction. And finally, environment. You want to make your home environment as comfortable and as pleasurable as it can be, or your office, or your place of employment if you have a job, just whatever, even your car, just wherever you are, make it as pleasant and comfortable as you can. So we don't want to be unaware. We want to become aware. Aware, belief, trust, and all those other things I mentioned. Choose your goal and move towards it. And that said, I will shut up and open it up to the panel and see who wants to say something here.
I'm jumping all over this.
I figured you would. I was waiting for that.
And you know what really happened? So I've heard all this stuff you're saying. And when I did a video earlier today about this, and I thought, everything they said about this is bullshit. Sorry. And here's what I mean. Because I'm the one who actually used one of these examples, right? I said, so when your alarm clock goes off, at 6 a.m., and you get up because you have to go to work. So, is that motivation? I got to go to work because if I don't get paid or I'll lose my job. And you know what I realized as you were talking? That's not motivation. It's not. And this stuff where they say motivation is not spontaneous is a lie. Now, it might not be for us, okay, but it can be. And in actuality, we can go back to Dr. Joe now because of, what he talks about, because children are motivated spontaneously. They don't need no freaking goal. Well, the goal is to enjoy the day every day. But this was just big, huge slamming me in the face here right now. And we've forgotten how to do that. That's really what it's come down to. And we have to set goals and we have to do this. And and again, so that's all about all that stuff. And like you talked about, that we live so unconsciously most of the time. We live within this robotic. We live within these stories of, I really can't do this. I'm not good enough. And that's why we got to find all these ways to so-called motivate ourselves. But what it really is find ways to tap back into that belief of who we are and of the things we can do and what we're capable of doing, and that self-worth and that self-esteem. And so we call it motivation and goals, and I'm not knocking all that stuff because obviously doing those things can bring you back around. But just realizing, no. A 4-year-old is spontaneously motivated. So motivation is spontaneous. We've had that drilled, smothered, quieted within us. And that's just the environment. You are, the specimen of your environment. And then just believing it and living it. So this idea of, there always has to be pain involved, and I think I see a shift in a lot of people today that we really don't want to go that route. We don't want to have to even say, well, we need to know this pain or we need to experience pain, but instead, because that is the old route, and that we can just focus on the joy and the pleasure, and for the thrill of it, and for the fun of it. And that's where motivation is, isn't it? It's about enthusiasm. Motivation is about interest. That's why 4-year-olds have it spontaneously. Spontaneously. So it's amazing to me, but yet you do, when you've learned the way we've learned, and you've had that smothered and allowed it to be smothered. I'm not blaming anybody. I guess you have to go through all these processes to bring yourself back out to the, it doesn't have to be, like, I hate that saying, no pain, no gain. It's like crap on that, okay? I don't buy that. It's just and we believe it as a society. We believe it. It's just about, if I believed I could have that thing, whatever it was, where I was going to, a job, a business, a relationship, I don't even need to set goals if I believed it, because I would be motivated every day. I would do those so-called things, okay, to bring me there. If I truly 100% believed, without a shadow of a doubt, that I could attain that. So it's all self-worth stuff. It's amazing to me. I never had it so clear and I've seen it before, but it just slammed me as you were talking. Now, I might sound way out there to all of you, sorry, okay? But I just needed to jump in here. I will be quiet now.
I'm going to come back once here, and then I'll shut up. I don't think we're saying opposite things, frankly, because the 4-year-old, while they are an open vessel and have been conditioned by their environment, they are not as conditioned as a 30-year-old or a 60-year-old or a 70-year-old. So the older you get, the more you need to work on these processes.
I don't disagree with that, except we could make it so much easier for ourselves if we'd stop believing that bullshit, okay, and just had self-belief and self-worth. And believing I have to go through all of this and I have to set goals. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I do think when you finally come to that realization, it's just about my belief of who I am and what I can attain. That's all it's about. If I have to get here through goals and doing all this stuff, that's cool. But that's all it's really about.
Well, even you're saying that if you have a belief that you can have a relationship or a career or a business or whatever it is, that's the goal.
Okay.
So it's just, I think it's a matter of the way you look at it. But anyway, let me shut up and go ahead. Who else would like to jump in here?
I'll jump in here. I agree with both of you. You're both saying what seems like opposite, but it really isn't, because it all comes down to being aligned. And when you're a little 4-year-old, as you guys say, you are aligned. You're aligned with the joy of life, which is what we're all here for. But we forget that because we're conditioned, as Ellie says, right? And so it's about closing that gap, because when you're completely aligned with self, you don't need motivation. The ideas come, the creativeness happens. Everything happens from that alignment. So alignment first is the best motivator. After that, you need a list. And I don't mean a list of people. I mean a list. I know what you guys are thinking. What you need after that is what I need anyways. What I'm going to say I need structure. Structure is my best motivator. If I have a schedule, if I have a list of tangible things written down that I know that I can physically check off, that's really, really good motivation for me. And that gets me further towards my goals my ultimate goals, always alignment first, and then what? And that's about all I have to say.
I'll jump
I
in.
like that. Alignment first. Go ahead, Michelle. Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, well, I like alignment too. I really like that, and I agree with Ellie and Carol. My issue is that we all can't be motivated 100% because of goals or what we believe. We get discouraged. I get discouraged a lot, and I've gotten better. But just 2 years ago, I was the biggest pessimist you would have ever met. Everything was negative, everything. And so I'm still kind of a baby in this thing. But, you know, I believe that we're all business owners here, us and everybody listening. And if we're not, that's great. But running a business, there's highs and there's lows. You get discouraged a lot, and you need to have, and you know, in my opinion, motivation is your why. I don't know if we wanted to go to that, but to me, it's the same thing. And your motivation has to be big enough for you to overcome that discouragement, that disappointment, and you know, and it's not, and money can't be the motivation. I mean, it can't. It has to go way deeper than that. And so, you know, I want to say I believe, you know, I'll believe 100% that I'll get to it, and I could believe that for a day, but then tomorrow something will happen and it'll, you know, I'll get discouraged or whatever. So I need something that is deeply motivating to get me through the discouragements. So that's what I have to share.
I'll share something. My problem is my self-worth is like Ellie was saying has been a problem, but since the last 2 years it's getting better since I've been in this group and I've had support about getting better. I can do a lot more things, and it's been motivating me to do more. So it's a big help. So I just wanted to say that people can motivate you a lot, but the right kind of motivation you need, though, not a negative kind, but a positive one. So that's it.
Well, that's a mouthful. Positive reinforcement, not negative reinforcement. True. Let me go back, Ellie, then to something else you said, and I just didn't want to go into that much detail, but fine. Actually, our friend Tony Robbins, and Ellie, you and I have heard Wayne Dyer speak of this too, where indeed there is something that's called, I wouldn't call it spontaneous motivation, because there is still a process that you go through, but it's quick. It doesn't have to be, you know, weeks or months or years or days even. It can happen overnight, if you will, or at the moment, if somebody will lead you through the process, or if you are aware of it. And that is, you've seen Tony Robbins' work, and he said he's taken patients from psychiatrists who've been working with people for months and years about phobias and things, and to no avail. And he's taken them and worked with them for a couple of hours, and bang, that's it. But he kind of led them through that process. So, you know, it was spontaneous in that it didn't take weeks, months, years, but it wasn't spontaneous insofar as, you know, they were stuck. They didn't know what to do. So, you know, he took them through the process. And also, we heard Wayne Dyer talk about this guy whose son passed away. And I think it was, if I remember correctly, that same night, he went to a party or dance or something, and, you know, people were whispering behind his back, how could he go to this when his son just died, you know? And the guy, you know, I guess he realized people were saying stuff or whatever, and his response was, you know, I'm going to get over this at some point, or I'm going to get at least to the point where I can function again. So why wait for a year down the line when I can do it now? And nothing else will have changed. It's just a matter of a time factor. So yeah, that did come from within him. He figured he got it in his head. He made that connection. He went through that, whatever. He brought it all together in his head. So yeah, those were a couple of examples of, I guess you want to call it spontaneous.
I was not negating what you were saying at all. Okay, I get all those things you're talking about. What was mind-blowing to me was, holy crap, we went through all this stuff, okay, when we really don't have to. But it is because of our upbringing. It is because we've been disappointed before. So like even Michelle is saying, you know, I get into it and I get excited and I believe, and then something happens and then like crash. But that's also a habit also. You know, we crash a lot damn quicker than we go up. Did you ever all notice that? You know, and it really is. And I just started reading that book that Carol's talking about. What the hell's the name of it? Recreate Yourself or something, make your brain different, whatever.
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, yeah.
I just started reading it, but I've been following Dr. Joe for a long time. So, and I've done some of his calls and what have you. It's just was mind-boggling to me as I was sitting over here and listening and realizing all the stuff that we have to go through to, in essence, unlearn what we always knew. Because little children do have spontaneous motivation. Okay, they have it. Because they have not yet really lived much disappointment, even when they've lived some of it at 4 years old, unless they've had horrendous lives, okay? But I'm going to talk about the majority of children. They have not stored it yet. They haven't stored all that stuff yet. Life is brandy new, fabulous, made for them on a daily basis. They get it. And my whole, you know, I always tell people I'm 8 years old. I get you all don't believe that, okay? As you're looking at my face. But, and what I'm always talking about is not that when I was 8, my life was so great. I think an 8-year-old is at the point where you can cross the street by yourself, okay? And you can go to the playground by yourself. You can go to the candy store by yourself. That's good, right? And you could go to the same playground every day, and it was still brandy new fresh. It was still exciting. You were still, in essence, motivated. It was the same freaking swings, okay? It was the same friggin' monkey bars and seesaw. And yet, and it was the same damn kids that showed up. And yet it was like, look out world, here I am. You know, and unfortunately, we let things, I don't think our light ever goes out, but we let things snuff out our life. We label things bad and difficult, and you know, and I get it. So I do think we have to do all these processes that Carol was talking about to bring ourselves back. But in essence, what Danny said, and Michelle agreed, and I'm sure Carol and everybody else would, I need to come into alignment. All right, so this is why we like talk personal. You go, I thought you people were going to talk about business. You're all in business, in the same business together on a team. We are, but it's so much about personal development. It's so much about learning what makes you tick, and what makes me tick is different than you. It's different than you. So you've got to find your own button. You've got to find it. You've got to find what works for me. Because sometimes I hate the word goals. Hate it. I go, I don't like the word. I'll call it intentions. I'll call it plans. But if you say the word, I can't put, it's not good for me. And so sometimes just trying to do that, follow exactly. The person says I have to make goals. No, sister, you got to make intentions, okay? You got to fit it to you. You've got to learn enough about you to find out what makes you tick so that you can go back to that 8-year-old and spontaneously wake up every day excited, because I do believe life is here to hand us all the joy we want, but we don't allow it in because of all the stuff in our head. I'll stop. I could go on now. I'm rolling for 45 hours.
All right, I guess I'll say something now.
Go, Denise.
Boy, I love listening to all of you. I relate to all of you, of course, because we all have the same thoughts that are recycled, right? And there's so much I could say. Like Ellie, I could go on for 45 days, I swear. But you know, I wasn't raised in a family that motivated me or, you know, told me I could have whatever I wanted and encouraged me to, you know, have dreams and goals and go to college and better myself. I didn't have that, you know. It was just very, just get a job and just get by, you know. I didn't know how to motivate myself. I didn't know how to achieve something great for myself in my life. I had to learn that along the way as I was growing, and then I would meet people and they would say things that they were doing, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? Well, how do you do that? You know, it was like foreign to me because it wasn't, you know, I didn't learn that stuff, right? So in my, I think mid-20s, about my mid-20s is when I was introduced to my first network marketing company just 5 years ago. I'm kidding. No, it was longer than that. And I really was attracted to that model of network marketing because I felt inside that I was more of a very independent, kind of free-spirited person that really hated having a boss. But I didn't, in my mind, I had these beliefs. You know, I had these beliefs in my mind that, well, no, I can't do that. Like, how am I ever going to do that? And then I would doubt and question myself, and then I would sabotage my own success because I didn't know how to achieve that. And so I would quit. And then I would have these thoughts stirring in my head that, gosh, you know, I wish I could find a way. I wish I could find a way to make something happen besides getting a job with a boss. And then another network marketing company would come in and out, and you know, something Ellie said about beliefs. I mean, that's really what it is, because other than, and I'm going to bring this in because this is something that has really, really helped me in my life in so many ways, and I talk about it to everybody I meet, and that is the work of Byron Katie. She has helped me shape and change my beliefs because her work has you question the beliefs that you're holding in your head that I'm not good enough and I'll never make it and he doesn't care about me and all this crap that we think. But really, other than what we're thinking and believing, there's no problem. Like, really, I'm sitting right here talking to you now, and I could be thinking about all this crap from the past and all these things that are holding me back. And really, where am I? I'm sitting here right now talking to you. Where's the problem? It's right here. It's always right here in your head. And so in doing work like that, and I've seen Joe Dispenza live. He's amazing. And I've started reading that book. I have that book, and I for some reason, maybe I wasn't ready for it, and one of these days I will pick it up again. And of course, I love Tony Robbins. I'm actually going to go see him in a couple of weeks live. I'm so excited. And I love something that he said, too, about motivation and making change in your life. He said, people will say, yeah, you know, it took me years to get to this point of where I finally made the change. And he said, it didn't. It took you a split second. You might have been thinking about it all those years, but the moment you made the decision is when it happened. Whenever we make the decision right then, that is when the change will happen. And I don't know if you know the word decision means to cut away from. So you're basically cutting off all other possibilities in your life. When you have something in your life that you're not happy with and you want to make a change, you're like, this is it. And unfortunately, like, unlike being a kid where there's not all that pain and all those stories built up yet, we do accumulate that over time, unfortunately, with life experience and all the stuff that happens, and then we hold it as being true instead of questioning it. The moment we make that decision, because we do have pain, and unfortunately, what I was going to say a second ago is, a lot of times it does take pain or having your back up against the wall to actually go, you know what, I can't live this way anymore. I have to do something different, because if I don't, I'm going to, be homeless. I'm going to be 400 pounds. I'm going to be, without a job or whatever. And so you have to, decide at some point that you have to go a different way. And this kind of reminds me of something we talked about last week, that book, The Slight Edge. What you're doing in your life is taking you one way or another. And little tiny things, like Carol said a second ago, it's, taking one bite of chocolate may not seem so harmless in the moment, but over 3 years' time, you can gain 30 pounds if you don't change that one tiny thing. And a lot of times people think that in order to change something in their life, they get overwhelmed because they think of the big giant picture instead of just taking one little tiny step that could lead them towards the way they want to go. And a lot of times they don't do that because, it's just such a tiny step, I'm not going to see the results fast enough. But really, if we don't take the little tiny step that's going to take us to where we want to go, where are we going to be in 3 or 4 or 5 years anyway if you keep going down that same path? And we have to look toward, for me, I have to think, okay, like when I retire, if I don't start going down a path of, changing my life to where I'm going to have retirement, like I don't have retirement, I'm self-employed, I don't have a 401k and all that stuff, If I get to when I get to the age of retirement, I better damn do something now to start changing it, which is why I'm building this business and why I have had this goal of changing my life this way, because I don't want to have to keep being a slave to my job like a lot of people are. So, gosh, I could go on and on too forever and ever. I just love these topics, but that's kind of my take, and I might think of something in a minute, but I'll pass it back to you, Carol.
Okay. Doggone, something you said. Oh, when you mentioned the word overwhelmed, it's funny, we were on a call this morning with Brian Finale, and he was saying that overwhelmed, and I forget the other word, Ellie would know, that we don't use that anymore. And he was using, I'm looking for the expression.
Frustrated and overwhelmed.
Thank you. I'm looking for the expression that he said that he, I can't find it right now, it's in my papers here someplace, that he uses, but it goes something like what Ellie always says, I'm in the process of, blah-de-blah-de-blah, moving towards whatever it is, instead of saying
it's about learning and stretching and just acknowledging I'm in a process, I'm learning. But
right.
Get rid of those words, frustrated and overwhelmed. That's all part of that old stuff. It triggers. You said it, Carol. It talked about it triggers the old stuff.
Yeah.
Me and Denise and all of us, we could go for 4 days here.
I know.
And I'd like to add one more thing too that I was thinking of earlier and then I forgot as I was talking. Anybody that's watching this right now, if you're in a spot where you feel stuck or frustrated or overwhelmed or whatever you want to call it, I mean, the advice that I would give for myself from what I've learned over the years, and Carol and Ellie have both mentioned this a few times earlier, is to find a group of people like this or something that are going somewhere, that are positive, that are successful, that are going in a direction that you can hang on to look for, like when we come to these hangouts every week, you might get discouraged or something during the week, and then I look forward to these hangouts and little events and calls every week because it kind of puts something back in you. It fills you back up with positivity and stuff to go, okay, I can keep going on now. So I think that's really important to get kind of eliminate or limit the negative people in your life that are pulling you down or telling you can't do it or whatever, and hang around people like this and pick up these books that we're talking about and listen to Tony Robbins and all that. I mean, I think that's so important. I've learned to do those things.
Well, sort of in line with that, Dispenza's book there, he talks about this. And I mean, it's so obvious. I never thought of it before. that we come into this world, tabula rasa, they say, as a blank slate. There's nothing that we come in with. And anything starting from day zero, as Brian Couch says, from day zero on, the environment and everybody starts pouring into us whatever their influences are. And I envision myself, I can't remember what product it was, but some product had a commercial on TV where the guy's head opened up and they poured something in and then it closed again. And that's immediately what I thought of. I thought, oh my God, this baby, infant, just opens up and then whatever. I mean, it could be love and nice stuff that's going in. It could be crap and junk that's going in, and that just continues as we go along and along and along and along until, we reach a point where we can say, screw that, you're nuts. But so much stuff just isn't thrown on us, that we don't have any control over in our younger years. And as Ellie said, that 4-year-old who's, at the playground having a great old time for the 155th time that year. But, you lose that with all the junk that's poured in there over time, over the years. It's sad.
So I gotta just because I'm gonna lose it. You know how my brain works. So all those things you talked about, I was not negating them. I think you need to do them. Once you're over 8, okay, you get a history. But the other thing is because I try to look at the world like that every day, and I don't even remember to do it every day, like an 8-year-old. Okay, so that's a process of let me step back because we walk through all these and where we live, but you all live, okay, or drive. There are beautiful things around you, and you're so used to seeing them, you've blocked them out, and you see the 8-year-old sees them. They see them. They still see them. So, taking that time and realizing we've had all other people's opinions and experiences put into us. And people did that to us to help us, to protect us. That is why they did it. I get that, okay? But so I'm just going to be mindful. I'm going to be aware of my surroundings. I'm going to be aware of, and that's that Brian Kading stuff that Denise is talking about, questioning. Is this stuff really true? So, so to utilize both things, okay, goals, and we'll call them intentions if you don't like that word like me, and that's because I have an old story behind it. So, and doing these different things, but being aware of, what? If somebody else can do it, I can do it. And if I'm not believing I can do it, that's just a lie. It's just all crap that I have contained in here. And I'm working, you see, when you're in a group like we're in, and you're reading books and we're talking like we're talking, I think this is a freaking amazing hangout today. You are able, because there's people that uplift you, so you're able to step into that level of you. It's not even another level. It was always there. It was waiting for you. Okay, I'm quiet now.
Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour. Not quite, but almost. Anybody else want to throw something out here? Okay, well, I'll throw something else too. Talking about it's just a memory that I have from somebody that I heard say something, and that is you're talking about being aware of looking at the beauty around and what have you. I remember I don't know if anybody else watched that. Eckhart Tolle was on with Oprah a few years back, and they did a whole show over time, and he was something else. He said that he was on his way to deliver a speech, a presentation in front of probably thousands of people, a couple thousand people, and somebody said to him, do you get nervous? And he said, no. He said, I don't get nervous. He said, a car came, picked me up, was driving me to the arena or hall or whatever it was where he was going to speak. And he said, I just look out the window and I say, oh, isn't that a pretty building? Oh my goodness, look at that little girl over there. I can just picture him. And sometimes when I can, I try to bring that back to my memory and think, oh, listen to that bird out there. You know? But if you've ever seen him talk or heard him speak, it was so funny. He's such a corker. So that's it. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we'll wrap it up. All right. For anybody who's watching or anybody who might be watching in the future, there will be a replay of this. Please feel free to leave any comments or questions in there. We will monitor that through the week. And also there is a link below if anybody's interested in what we're doing, what we're involved in. Please feel free to click that link and take a look and see what this is all about. Otherwise, get back to the person who invited you here if you were invited specifically by a particular person. And anything that anybody wants to add to that?
No, we'll be back next week. We don't know what the topic is yet, but we're going to come up with great topics. If you have an idea for a topic, please put it down here in the chat or get in touch with the person that invited you here, that you invited here. If you're watching the replay, the same thing. You know, give us some ideas. You want us to talk about specific things? We really will. We are a team, and we are in business together, but we're all in business for ourselves, but not by ourselves. And if you're interested, you know, again, you're right. Get back with the person who invited you here, or click that button. And come back next week. And I know some of you are here and you're not talking, and that's cool. But you want to know why? The more you talk, well, maybe the less I'll talk, and then you'll be happier. But I don't know. That might be a deal. If you all talk a lot, I'll be quiet. We might run that. It might be like a bet that goes on. We'll see. I'm not sure. So. It's great. It was great to be here. It was a great hangout tonight. It really was. For me, I hope everybody else feels the same way.
It was awesome. I loved it. It was awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Like Denise, we could go for hours on this subject.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
It's my favorite subject. I love it.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, we will bid everybody adieu and see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.